Welcome back into the Daily Dose. I'm Jeff Hansen. The show is brought to you by Give'emHellBrigham.com or GEHB.co. That's co, just C-O, GEHB.co. Check out our freemium style newsletter. All of the great BYU content you get here at the Daily Dose, but in the written word, in longer form. Check it out for free. If you like what you see and you want a little bit more, there is a VIP model. Pay a few bucks a week, or a few bucks a month, rather, and get a few extra newsletters per week with more VIP content, inside access to our Discord server, things like that. It's a lot of fun. So check that out at Give'emHellBrigham.com or at GEHB.co. We've hit the part in fall camp where everybody's tired of fall camp. I mean, that's really where we're at. We're just over 2 weeks away from the season. The team is tired of hitting each other. The fans are tired of reading the same kind of practice reports every day. We're all a little bit tired of the coach speak. Games are close, and that's what we all want to see. And one of the things that kind of marks that checkpoint every year is Bill Connelly over at ESPN. He releases his final preseason SP Plus rankings, and he's done that. He did that this week. BYU checks in at number 51. That's up from number 62 during his last round of SP Plus rankings. Checks in at number 51 in the final preseason rankings, which is fair. I mean, I think that's probably where most BYU fans would peg BYU, is somewhere around the top 50 with the potential to move up, but obviously the potential to move down as well. So 51 feels pretty fair. SP Plus, what does Bill Connelly do? He takes all of the returning production and transfers, recruiting success, wins, losses, stats, all of these things, puts them in together and matches them into his algorithms, and then ultimately comes up with a few simple numbers that help him rank the teams and help him get an idea of what to expect using math and using numbers. Is it perfect? Of course it's not, but it's one of the better systems that's out there today to try and reduce all of these stats and all of these things into simple, digestible numbers. So SP Plus, it's a great thing. One thing that SP Plus does is Bill will take all of those games, he'll put it into a schedule, and he'll try to project where the point spreads will be based on what he sees in his formula. And my friend Joe Wheat of the BYU Hype Train podcast, if you have not checked out the BYU Hype Train podcast, search it out anywhere that you could find a podcast. It's fantastic stuff, and it will just thicken your blue goggles for you. It will get you amped for the season. Check out Joe Wheat and his entire team over there at the BYU Hype Train. Joe did the work for us. He took all of the point spreads, put it into one simple and easy to see tweet. So let's take a look at what this is. And here we are. And I apologize. I cut Joe's name off of the thing, not because I don't like Joe. Clearly, I want to give him credit, but because I couldn't get it to fit and make it readable. So here we are. Here's the projected point spreads according to SP Plus for BYU's 12 games this season. The first two, I don't think anybody's surprised. BYU a 3-touchdown plus favorite, and then BYU favored by infinity over FCS SUU. I mean, nobody's surprised. Nobody's going to debate those. I would, however, look at taking that Sam Houston line if it really comes in at north of 3 touchdowns. While I think BYU should beat them by north of 3 touchdowns, season opener, Sam Houston has a lot of unknown. Man, I would really, really look to take the points and Sam Houston there. While BYU would escape with the win, I do think Sam Houston keeps it a little tighter than that. Okay, but getting into the good part of the season, we're not talking about what you should take and what you should bet on. We're looking at these point spreads, these projected point spreads, to get an idea of how much of a dogfight BYU is going to be in this season. So if you go through it, a 7-point underdog at Arkansas, 3-point favorite against Kansas, just barely, almost a pick 'em against Cincinnati, a heavy underdog against TCU, nearly 10 points, nearly a touchdown underdog at about 6.5 against Texas Tech, a 17-point dog against Texas. That feels really high, but I get it. West Virginia, 2.5-point favorite on the road, nearly a pick 'em against Iowa State. OU, a 2-touchdown underdog at home on senior night. That one I have kind of circled. And then Oklahoma State, a near 5-point underdog in the regular season finale. I don't know how I feel about a lot of these. I think that BYU is being undervalued by SP Plus. This is not Bill Connelly's personal opinion. He uses math and he uses numbers. I think that his formula is undervaluing BYU. And some of the games that really stand out, I have no problem with the touchdown underdog on the road to Arkansas, especially given what BYU did against Arkansas last year. So that, no issues whatsoever. But I go through this. Cincinnati, I struggle with the idea that Cincinnati is a pick 'em because that's a brutal, brutal game for Cincinnati. They will be coming on a short week all the way across the country after an emotional game against Oklahoma, their first ever Big 12 game. They will be coming across the country to have a night game on a Friday night against BYU in their first ever home Big 12 game. That feels like a lot of intangible things, not necessarily football things, but this one feels like BYU wins by a touchdown or more. I think Cincinnati's a fine program. I think they're a fine team. I think the scheduling gods didn't do them any favors in that one. I struggle a little bit with that Texas Tech line. I think Texas Tech is going to be very good, and I think BYU should probably be underdogs against Texas Tech. However, that is the homecoming game. That is going to be a big game. And really, that's BYU's first true Big 12, I guess, first home Big 12 game against one of the original Big 12 members. There will be a lot of excitement. That environment will be crazy at LaVell Edwards Stadium there. I would shrink that line personally. 6.5 feels like a lot. That one feels more like a field goal or less type of a line to me. And then as I go through this, I talked about Texas. 17 feels like a lot. I know that Texas is back. They're always back. I get what I'm supposed to think about Texas. That just feels like a lot of points. Maybe a little less than 2 touchdowns in my mind, 13.5. West Virginia, I like that line. Iowa State, I have a hard time with. Iowa State is a very good defense. Even though their record was pretty poor last year, their defense was elite. It reminds me a lot of that 2012 BYU team, where if that offense could have done anything, then BYU's talking about an all-time type of team. Iowa State's defense was elite, but that offense did nothing. I expect Iowa State's defense to be elite once again, but I don't know what's going to happen with Iowa State on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know that they have answers to the problems from last year. And now they've got quarterback eligibility questions after Hunter Decker bet on himself and was caught betting on himself and betting on Iowa State games. Who knows what's going to happen there? So that feels like a really weird line to me. I would have BYU favored in that one. Oklahoma, that feels like a lot, but I understand Oklahoma's got a ton of talent. Maybe shrink that down to 10. But I have no problems with really a double-digit line for the Oklahoma game. But Oklahoma State, that last one, that's the last one that I kind of feel really confused about. I get that it's on the road. I get that it's, in Stillwater on the final regular season finale. It's going to be a sold-out environment there in Stillwater at Boone Pickens Stadium. But 5 points is a lot. I don't know. That one feels, based on what we know about those two teams right now, that feels like it's a pick 'em to me. But really, at game 12 of the regular season, it's who's the healthiest is really going to determine who ends up being favored in that game. But I think Oklahoma State and BYU are similar in terms of talent, returning production, things like that. So to me, that line feels like a lot. At the end of the day, according to SP Plus, they have BYU at about where the rest of us have BYU, and that is fighting for bowl eligibility. 5.7 wins to 6.3 losses. Clearly, you can't win half a game. So call that 6-6 if BYU has a chance to go to a bowl and pick up that 7th win. I don't think anybody's complaining about that result. I think that would be fair. Looking at this, I do think that BYU has the potential to get better. I don't know that they'll get much worse. I think that 5 wins is kind of the floor for the Cougars this year. Obviously, all of this could change with, an injury or two. But I think that's kind of the floor for me. I don't see a 4-win season for BYU. I see 5 wins on this schedule, and I see 3 more games that BYU could win on this schedule. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But ultimately, here's what SP Plus thinks. Here's the projected spreads. Give you an idea of what to expect this year. All in all, BYU's in good hands. Jay Hill's turning the defense around. Aaron Roderick has that offense humming. BYU's in good shape. They're in good shape. I think they're going to surprise some people. I was talking with some folks down in Provo earlier this week, and they said to me, Jeff, I don't know why people are looking at us and saying, hey, this is a 4-win team. There's a lot of confidence within that locker room, and it's really kind of cool to see. We'll see. Confidence only buys you so many wins. It doesn't really do a whole lot. You've got to perform on the field, but there's a lot of confidence, and this team is kind of enjoying being overlooked and written off. I think they're going to surprise some folks, but they're not going to surprise anybody in that locker room. There's a lot of confidence over there in Provo. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here at the Daily Dose, and until next time, give them hell.